Shalom, Israel. How y'all doing? Blessed to have y'all here on this Tuesday Bible study. Y'all know today's lesson is about the circumcision, and about an hour and a half through the lesson, the last 30 minutes, y'all able to ask questions. So if y'all have any questions, please do so during that time, and make sure it's about this because we have Q&A tomorrow. Y'all can get all y'all questions and answers in about any other topic. So today I want to go to James 1 and verse 1. James 1 and verse 1.
The book of James, chapter 1 and verse 1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord, Hamashiach Yahushai, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting.
So greetings to the children of Israel. That's in North, South, Central America, all across the world. Northern, Southern Kingdom, so-called African Americans, so-called Latinos, so-called Native Americans. Greetings to you, because you are the 12 tribes of the children of Israel who are scattered abroad. And this lesson is for you about circumcision. So with that, let's go to Isaiah chapter 11. And I want verses 12 and 13.
Isaiah chapter 11, verse 12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
So the ensign is the word. Go ahead.
The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off.
So the envy of Ephraim, that's the northern kingdom. And the what of Judah?
And the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off.
Which is our enemies, the enemies of Judah. Go ahead.
Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim.
So the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom will no longer be at odds with each other. It's not going to be no more war. We're going to be at one in the kingdom. Go ahead.
But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east together.
So when we get gathered back as one, we're going to fight as one unit, one army. So I just wanted to bring that to attention. Let's go to Hosea chapter 1 and verse 10. Because now the northern and the southern kingdom is coming together, right? So now let's get this prophecy that's also being fulfilled. Right before our eyes, I always post. Prophecy is being fulfilled right before your eyes, and you are the living proof. Because y'all seen that rainbow in the sky today, right? What covenant was that? Yeah, the covenant that the Most High won't flood the earth no more with water, right? Who else can put a bow in the sky? Huh? No, I'm saying, who else could do that? Who else has done that? Nobody, right? So this is how we know that the Bible is a book of true knowledge and prophecy and the history of the children of Israel. So let's get that Hosea 1 and 10.
Hosea chapter 1 and verse 10. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea.
So we are scattered through the four corners of earth, North, South, Central America, and all throughout eastern hemisphere of the world, right? We everywhere. So we are as the sand of the sea. But here in America, they tell us we are the minority when we are actually the majority. You got the African Americans, you got the Latinos, you got the Native Americans, and all the other indigenous people that are here, right? As the nation of Israel. So we are as the sand of the sea. But go ahead.
which cannot be measured nor numbered.
Has anybody put a census together to put us all in one number? Even if they tried, they couldn't do it because there's so many of us. We not just here, but we all throughout the world. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God.
So we now, this prophecy is coming to light. It has come to light because you got Edomites saying the African Americans, they are the children of Israel. You got the Arabs. They just sent that letter out to 8 churches saying that the African Americans, the blacks, are the children of Israel. So the Bible prophecy is steadily coming true. So let's get, that's in the Old Testament. Let's get it in the New Testament. Romans 9 and 26. Because this covenant, it still stands, right? The covenant of the Bible. And we are the children that now we inheriting our covenant. Romans 9 and 26.
Romans chapter 9 and verse 26. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living God.
So African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, and all the other indigenous people scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth and North, South, and Central America, you are the children of Israel according to the Bible, according to prophecy. Because only you have been through these curses. And only we were the people that was, we ain't nothing. Y'all niggas, spicks, coons. But now we finding out we got a true name, Izar Ahla, Prince of Power. You feel me? So this is who we are. This is our prophecy. And we are the living proof. Go. That was all of that. So now, let's go to something. Because as we find out who we are, now that we know we the children of Israel, let's go to Romans 15 and verse 4. No, I'll get that one next. Romans 15 and 4, and then get Deuteronomy 32 and 7.
Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning.
So the Bible was written way before I was born, way before any of you was born. It was written aforetime for our learning. This is how we get the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding of our history and who we are today, right? And through all praises through the Spirit of the Most High. Go ahead.
That we, through patience and comfort of the Scriptures, might have hope.
Through comfort of what?
Comfort of the Scriptures.
Because some in the bootleg church, they say that God just going to download it in us and we going to get it. No, our comfort is right here in the Scriptures. Because somebody came to you and told you was the children of Israel, right? You didn't just one day wake up, I'm an Israelite, right? Through the comfort of the Scriptures. This is how we get our comfort. Was all of that? All right, let's go to Deuteronomy 32 and 7. Because this is our great awakening. Because didn't the Most High tell Moses that we're going to be in bondage 400 years? This is us, right? What other nation you know has been in bondage for 400 years? Nobody, right? Just us. And you can get that right here in the Bible. And you can get people saying, man, we've been in bondage 400 years, 400 years. They even make memes about it, talking about if the white man was in bondage 400 years and we was on top, we'll be ruling too, right? But that's about us. This is our story. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations.
So we got to remember the days of old, which our forefathers went through. It said whatever was written for our learning, right? So now we got to remember and consider what they went through and what they did. Go ahead.
Ask thy father, and he will show thee.
Where's our fathers at in this Bible? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? Our forefathers, even the prophets, all the stuff they went through. These would be our fathers. This is our bloodline, our lineage, right? So these would be our fathers in the Scriptures. Go ahead.
Thy elders, and they will tell thee.
So these men were older than us, right? So our elders as well. Because we can't go and pray to our elders right now, right? But we can go to the Scriptures and see what they did, what they went through, and what they learned, and what they left for us. That's how they gonna tell us through these scriptures. Go ahead. That's all of that. So with that, let's go to Deuteronomy 30. I want verse 1 through 3. And today's lesson is about the circumcision. The circumcision of Israel. Is it physical? Is it spiritual? Is it mental? Well, we're going to find out today that it's all of those things. But go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse.
So we went through the blessing. Now we in the curse. Go ahead.
Which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations.
So we calling this to mind among all the heathen nations. We scattered everywhere. Right? Go ahead.
Whither the Lord thy God have driven thee.
Who driven us? The Most High, right? Go ahead.
And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day.
So we have to return and obey his voice. Everything that he commanded us to do, everything he commanded our forefathers to do, we must now do, because we are the seeds of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The bloodline still continues. Go ahead.
Thou and thy children, which with all thine heart and with all thy soul.
So our children also, not just the elders, but the youngsters too. Go ahead.
That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God have scattered thee.
So only when we do this will we be returned to our land. So don't we have a condition that we have to fill, which is the keeping of the Most High God's commandments, even the circumcision? So let's get into that. Let's go to the covenant. Let's go to Genesis 17, verse 1. Because now, knowing that who we are and what we must do, we got to follow it, right? Because other than that, what good would it be for us to just know it and not do it? After reading that Deuteronomy 31 through 3. Would it be good to just know it? Because some people profess themselves to be Israelites, right? They don't keep the commandments. What good is it to them? Because they still going to receive hell and damnation at the second coming of Yahweh Shai, our King. So go ahead.
Genesis chapter 17 and verse 1. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect.
So you have a lot of people that say they can't be perfect. But Yahweh Shai even said the same thing. He told us to walk and be thou perfect. So let's go, hold that, because we're going to come back there. Let's go to Psalms 19 and 7 and get James 1 and 25 to show that we can be perfect. James 1 and 25. Psalms 19 and 7, the first scripture.
Book of Psalm, chapter 19, and verse 20 and verse 7. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple.
So the law of the Lord is perfect. What do we have to do? We have to come back to the law, statutes, commandments, which is stated in Deuteronomy 31 through 3. It said once we come back to keeping the commandments, then will we be returned back into our own land. So we got to keep this perfect law, right? It didn't say the law was corrupt, but it said it's perfect. So now let's go to James 1 and 25.
James chapter 1 and verse 25. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty.
It said perfect law of liberty. This is the only thing that's going to set the Israelites free, right? Ain't we trying to get liberty free here? But they ain't not giving it to us here in America, right? Or nowhere around this world. They not giving us the law of liberty. But go ahead.
And continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the word.
It said you can't be a forgetful hearer. That's what I was saying earlier. What good is it to you to know that you're an Israelite? You find out about the law and then you forget about it. What good is it to you? It's not good to you at all. But what do you have to do?
He being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed.
So you have to be a doer of the law, which is that work. Then you will be blessed. So with that, let's go back to Genesis 17. And you can finish, yeah, you can start at verse 2. So now we know that when the Most High God told Abraham to walk before him and be perfect, he was talking about keep my law, keep my statutes. Genesis 17 and 2.
Genesis chapter 17 and verse 2. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly.
So the Most High said, if you follow my commandments, do what I tell you to do, then will I multiply you exceedingly. Go ahead.
And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations.
So he made his covenant with our forefather Abram. Go ahead.
Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee.
So he changed his name, the father of many nations, Abraham. Go ahead.
And I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee.
Go ahead.
And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant.
So he said this is going to be an everlasting covenant, not just with him, but with his seed as well, which we are now finding out that we are the seed of Abraham. So with that, let's go to Exodus 24. We're going to read 3 through 7. Because we are the children of Israel. African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, indigenous people scattered throughout the North, South, and Central America, and all the other countries in this world. Go ahead. Yeah, we're going to go back to Genesis. So you can hold that. So now let's go to Exodus 24, 3 through 7.
Genesis 24.
Exodus 24.
I'm sorry. Exodus 24 and verse 3. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord.
So the people that were there with him, which would be our forefathers, our elders, right? This is what they did during the time of this covenant. Go ahead.
And all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words which the Lord hath said will we do. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning, and builded an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars, according to the 12 tribes of Israel.
According to the 12 tribes. No other nations was there with us, right? So he made pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel, whom the covenant was made with. Go ahead.
And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning, and built an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the blood of the covenant and read it in the audience of the people. And they said, All that the Lord hath said we will do, and be obedient.
So our forefathers, they agreed to keep the covenant of the Most High and all the judgments that went along with it. Because we living out the judgment right now, right? The children of Israel are living out this curse, right? So with that, let's go to Deuteronomy 29. We're going to read 14 through 15. Because not only did our forefathers agree to everything that Abraham was showed by the Most High, they also put that covenant on us as well. So let's go to Deuteronomy 29 and 14.
Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 14. Neither with you only do I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that standeth here with us this day before the Lord our God, and also with him that is not here with us this day.
Was we there with Abram? No, we wasn't, right? But the covenant is made with us as well. So it wasn't just on our forefathers, it was with us. That's why in Deuteronomy 6 and 4 it said, teach this to your children, right? So now that we know that, hey, this covenant wasn't just with our forefathers, it was also made with us. We came back out as well either, right? This is a blood covenant. Also an everlasting covenant. Was that all 15?
Yeah.
All right. So with that, doing this covenant, let's go to Joel 2 and 27. Because this is a heavy covenant, man. And we got to keep it. And all praises to the Most High. He waking us up to it. Because if not, we'll still be judged. Condemned to hell. Even though we don't know it. Because guess what? Our forefathers, they knew it. They knew what they had to do. They knew how they were supposed to teach us the law, statutes, and commandments, right? But go ahead, Joel 2 and 27.
Joel chapter 2 and verse 27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else.
So he only the God of the children of Israel. He ain't nobody else God, right? So now we see that the Most High God, Yahweh, is our God. And he made a covenant not only with our forefathers, but also with us. So let's go back to the rest of the covenant. Genesis 17, we're going to read 8 through 11. We're going to be coming back to Genesis a lot, so you might as well hold that bookmark there. So Genesis 17 and verse 8.
Genesis chapter 17 and verse 8. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger.
So see, the Most High always rehearse it. He said, I will give to thee and thy seed after thee. What comes from a man's seed? Children, right? So this covenant is also with us. Go ahead.
All the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God.
So isn't Jerusalem our land right now? We just kicked out for a season, right? Because our disobedience. But now we coming back into the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. And we're going to get that back, which Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 3 states, right? So go ahead.
Verse 9. And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee.
So now he's going to tell us what the rest of the covenant is. Go ahead.
Every man child among you shall be circumcised.
So we supposed to be circumcised, right? As Abraham was, right? You got some people that say we not supposed to, right? But we gonna find out. So go ahead and read verse 11.
And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised.
That was it. So we know that the covenant of circumcision was between us and the Most High through Abraham, right? So let's go to Psalm 78 and 5. So circumcision is the removal of the male foreskin, right? That's the definition I got when I searched it out. So let's go to Psalm 78 and 5.
Psalm chapter 78 and verse 5. For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children.
So this also had to be known to us, the children of our forefathers. Go ahead. Was that all of that?
That the generation to come might know them, even the children which shall be born.
So there you go again. The seed. We the seed. We are the children that's born now. So now let's go to Psalms 147, verse 19 and 20. That was all the five, right?
Yeah. Psalm, you said 147, 19, 20.
Yep. So this says, as y'all can see, this covenant was only given to the children of Israel, right? The covenant of circumcision wasn't given to all nations.
Psalm 147, verse 19. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them.
The other nations don't know the judgments of the Most High the way we know them. And he was only dealing with us concerning this covenant. So let's go to let's go back to Genesis. Genesis 17 and verse 11. Yeah.
Genesis 17, in verse 11. And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you.
So as you can see, this was a token between Abraham and the Most High. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, verse 12 now.
Every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house, or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with money, must needs be circumcised.
So on the 8th day, we had to be circumcised. Let's go to Leviticus 12. We're going to read 1 through 3.
Leviticus chapter 12, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a man have conceived seed, and born a man child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, according to the days of the separation, for her infirmity shall she be unclean. And in the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised.
So that's the circumcision. That was the promise. That was the token that all the children of Israel had to give to the Most High. Circumcision. Not just Abraham, but everyone. So now let's go back. Let's go to Acts 7 and 8 right quick. We're going to jump forward and then we're going to come back.
Acts chapter 7, and verse 8. And he gave him the covenant of circumcision. And so Abraham begat Isaac, and circumcised him the 8th day. And Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat the 12 patriarchs.
So also our forefathers, whom the 12 tribes came from, which we came from, they were also given this same covenant. And you see it wasn't passed down to Abraham's other son, right? Who was his other son? Ishmael. But it was passed to the children of Israel. So let's go back. Let's go back to that Genesis 17. And you can start back at verse 13. You can go 13. No, you can go 12 because you didn't get the stranger, right?
I did.
Yeah, read it again.
Genesis chapter 17 and verse 12. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations. He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money, must needs be circumcised.
So even the strangers that were among us, they had to be circumcised. They had to follow our customs. Like today, the enemies, they want us to conform to them, right? But nah, they had to conform to us if they wanted to be around us. If we hired them or if we brought them on as our servants, they had to be circumcised. So let's get why they had to be circumcised. Let's go to Leviticus 25 and verse 45. We're going to read 44 and 45. Because this was the law. This was the covenant the Most High gave to our forefather Abraham.
Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 44. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you.
So we were supposed to buy of the heathen. These were our bondmaid and bondwomen. Go ahead.
Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you,
even the ones that sojourned among us, that were just living around us. Go ahead.
Of them shall ye buy.
So we were supposed to buy them as well. Go ahead.
And of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession.
So they became our possession. Go ahead, read 46.
And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you.
So we were supposed to even pass them down to our children. Because who of our forefathers that were they passed down their bondmaids? Leah and Rachel, right? That's how 12 tribes of the children of Israel got birth through their it was Bilhah and what was the other one? Zilpah. The 12 tribes were birthed through handmaids, right? So we're supposed to pass them down as a possession. And when we keep them as our people, as our servants, we were also supposed to circumcise them. We're going to get that. So was that all of that?
They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor.
So we weren't supposed to buy our brothers and rule over them with rigor, but over the other nations. So let's get why they were supposed to be circumcised when they hung with us. Let's go to Exodus 12. We're going to read 43 through 48. Because they couldn't just be around us. The Most High had a covenant set up for us and an order and a law that we were supposed to keep. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 43. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou have circumcised him.
Wait, hold up. We got to circumcise the ones that we bought. Go ahead.
Then shall he eat thereof.
This was the only way that they were to partake of the meal. Go ahead.
A foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof.
So someone that was a foreigner or a hired servant, they couldn't eat at a Passover. But somebody that was bought, our slaves, they were able to eat. Go ahead.
In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof.
But you can see, not only did the covenant of circumcision, was it on us, but was also on our servants. Right? That's what today's lesson is about, the circumcision. So now let's get another instance of where our men were circumcised. Let's go to Leviticus. Go to verse 49. You read all the way to 48 right there, right?
No, I didn't.
All right, go ahead. Go to read to 48.
Verse 47. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover of the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And
So they had to be, strangers had to be circumcised. They couldn't just hang around us. They want to sojourn among us, live amongst us. They also had to be circumcised. Go ahead.
And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you.
So only one law, which is the law that the Most High God made with Abraham. This was the covenant with the children of Israel. If anybody wanted to hang with us, be around us, they had to be circumcised. Because other than that, they couldn't hang around us, right? Other nations, even our servants, they couldn't even partake in the holy meals that the Most High God set up for us. So with that, let's go to Leviticus 20. We're going to read 10 through 13. Leviticus 22, 10 through 13. Because there was only one law set up. And as you can see, this law pertaining to circumcision was for all the children of Israel and everyone that wanted to be hanging around us or with us. Go ahead, Leviticus 22, 10 and 11.
Leviticus chapter 22 and verse 10. There shall no stranger eat of the holy thing. A sojourner of the priest or an hired servant shall not eat of the holy thing.
So this is talking about the Passover. Go ahead.
But if the priest buy any soul with his money, he shall eat of it.
So if the priest had a servant and he was circumcised, then he could eat of it. But if he wasn't circumcised, he couldn't eat nothing of the Passover. So not only was this law for the children of Israel, when we bought somebody and they came around us, they also, the males had to be circumcised, not the women. Because you got some nations, they'll cut everything that's loose on a woman, which not should be so, because that's to protect the woman's inner parts. So with that, let's go to Leviticus 24 and 22.
24 and 2.
24 and 22.
Leviticus chapter 24 and 22. Ye shall have one manner of law, as well for the stranger as for one of your own country. For I am the Lord your God.
So it's only going to be one law. Not everybody's laws as the world would have us keep today. The Most High God only wants us to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. And if any stranger or anybody wants to be around the children of Israel, they have to keep our laws and our commandments. The statutes that the Most High God set up for us. No other law. So let's get that also in Numbers 15, 16. So who was the law of circumcision for? And who else? The strangers that want to be around us, right? Go ahead.
Numbers chapter 15 and verse 16. One law and one manner shall be for you and for the stranger that sojourneth with you.
Verse 29.
Verse 29. Ye shall have one law for him that sinneth through ignorance, both for him that is born among the children of Israel, and for the stranger that sojourn among them.
So there you have it. Only one law between us and the strangers and the ones that we buy. They're supposed to keep our commandments. They also have to be circumcised, doing our holy feast, right? So with that, let's go to Genesis 17, verse 13. Yeah.
Genesis chapter 17 and verse 13. He that is born in thy house and he that is bought with thy money must needs be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant.
So this is the covenant. It constantly repeats itself. We got to be circumcised. The strangers and our servants that we buy got to be circumcised. What's the stipulation for them not being circumcised? Read verse 14.
Verse 14. And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people.
So that soul shall be cut off. But let's get one more thing, because I also wanted to show you. Let's go to Esther 4 and 11. Because I want to show you that the other kingdoms, they wanted, when we were around them, they wanted us to keep their customs, which we were not supposed to keep.
Esther chapter 4, verse 11. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live.
So there was one law that he had set up, right? Wasn't we dwelling among him? So that's the one law that they had that we had to keep, right? So with that, let's go to First Maccabees. Now I'm gonna show you another law that they wanted us to also keep. Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 1. We're gonna read 41 through 48.
First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
So now you have these wicked rulers. They wanted us to be one people. What they say in America here today. One nation under God. Ain't nothing changed. Same thing. They just saying what their forefathers said. Go ahead.
And every one should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
So you have wicked Israelites, like here in America. They consent to the ways of America. They say the Pledge of Allegiance, right? Which we weren't supposed to do. Go ahead.
And sacrifice unto idols and profane the Sabbath.
They do that now in the bootleg church. They have a pork chop dinner. They have catfish dinners. They profane the Sabbath, right? They don't keep the Sabbath, but they do everything on their bootleg holidays. They just had Christmas and New Year's where they had their Christmas ham, all that, right? Go ahead.
Verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land.
So they wanted us to follow their strange laws, not keep our customs, but they want us to follow their strange laws. Why would something be strange to somebody? That's right. Go ahead.
And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
So they wanted us to eat what was contrary to our law. They want us to eat swine's flesh in the temple, a place to be clean. Don't the pastors do that today? They don't put a difference between clean and unclean in church on Sunday. Not even the holy days, they don't put a difference between. They don't keep the new moon. They don't keep the Sabbath. And they don't keep the holy feast days. They don't keep none of the laws in Leviticus 20, none of the feasts in Leviticus 23. But go ahead.
Verse 48, that they should always leave their
children. They should also.
That they should also leave their children uncircumcised.
What was our law? We supposed to be circumcised, right? Supposed to cut the foreskin, but they knew this is how we would be defiled by us not keeping the covenant that was made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and with us, who are the seed of Israel. Go ahead.
That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
So they didn't want us to be circumcised, knowing that this was a covenant that we made with the Most High, not the heathen. Because you could go and do Google research, even YouTube videos. You got Edomites going against the ordinance that the Most High God set up for us. They petitioned it. Even in Frisco, they got a law. They trying to outlaw, ban circumcision. They got campaigns saying it's evil, it's wicked, it doesn't profit anything. But this covenant was for us, not them. Was that all of that? So let's go to 2 Maccabees 6 and 10. We're gonna get an instance where they said we ain't supposed to be circumcising ourselves, right? And they carried out their damnation on us for keeping our commandments. Same thing they do here today. Second Maccabees.
2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 10. For there were two women brought who had circumcised their children.
So these two women, they circumcised their children. Let's go up. Let's go to start at verse 9.
Verse 9. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death.
So they said they would put us to death. Go ahead.
Then might a man have seen the present misery.
So they was banking on somebody seeing somebody get killed, and they be like, "Nah, man, I'm good. I'm a conform to the ways of the heathen." Go ahead.
For there were two women brought who had circumcised their children.
So these women were Israelite women, and they circumcised their children. This was the punishment of their king. This is what he did. Go ahead.
Whom when they had openly led round about the city, the babes hanging at their breasts.
So they made a public spectacle of our people because they circumcised their children. These women were brave. They said, "The hell with your law. I'm gonna keep the Most High God's covenant that He made with my forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." And they circumcised their boys. Go ahead.
They cast them down headlong from the wall.
So they killed them. They killed the children. Don't they do that today? They take away the insurance for us to get circumcised, right? They jack up the price. Even when you're supposed to get that 8th day, they don't want to circumcise your kid on the 8th day. You got to fight for it. He had to go through it. I had to go through it. Man, these heathens wicked. They don't want us to keep our covenant. So they don't even encourage our children to get circumcised. So with that, let's go to Judith 5 and 17. No, let's go back to Genesis 17:14, and then we'll go to Judith 5.
Genesis chapter 17 and verse 14. And the uncircumcised man-child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He have broken my covenant.
So who you gonna be more afraid of, the heathen or the Most High? Because he said he gonna cut you off, right? And when he cut you off, that's death. That's murder. The same thing the heathen want to do to you. So why would we follow their customs and die double death? The heathen gonna kill us, and then the Most High gonna kill us, being afraid of them, right? So now let's go to Judith 5 and 17 through 18. Because these heathens, they wanted to make war against us, and they wanted to make it easy for themselves. Because when we were in disobedience, the Most High, He didn't fight for us. And this scripture right here is going to show this.
Judith chapter 5 and verse 17. And whilst they sinned not before their God, they prospered.
So when we didn't sin before the Most High, we kept His covenant. We prospered as a nation of people. Go ahead.
Because the God that hateth iniquity was with them. But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore, and were led captives into a land that was not theirs. And the temple of their God was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemies.
So the siege of 70 AD, didn't that happen? Because of our disobedience. So now let's go back. Was that all of 18?
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to First Maccabees 48 and 50.
First Maccabees.
Yeah. Verse 48 and 50, and then we can go down to verse 57.
Chapter 1.
Yeah.
48 through 50.
Because if you can get an advantage over somebody, wouldn't you do it? Like today, they put pork in a lot of our food products, right? And we supposed to be keeping the Most High God's commandments. If we defile this, the Most High gonna fight for us? So it's a must that we look into these food products and find out what they putting in it, right? Because they put a lot of pork, a lot of shellfish products in the food that we would normally eat. Like some what's the noodles everybody be eating? Top ramen. Don't they put oyster sauce in it? But our people eating it. Oh man, I ain't got but $1 or $2. I'm gonna go get this top ramen. You think you keeping the commandments, but now you actually cursing yourself because you didn't look into the ingredients and you eating oyster sauce noodles because they was cheap.
They package in I think they package it on machinery that also packages
Packaged pork, so shellfish. Oh yeah, you still being defiled either way because it say don't touch a dead carcass of a crab. What's that? Catfish or even the pig because we unclean through that. So they defiling us both, huh? Oh yeah, crawfish. That's same like a lobster. But go ahead.
crustaceans.
Yep.
First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 48. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised
So they want us to leave our children uncircumcised. Go ahead.
and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
So they wanted us to become an abomination like they were, which the Most High hate. Because he talked about that in Hebrews 12 and 6. Unless there be any unprofane or foul or unprofane person is Esau. Man, the Most High didn't want us to be like them. So that was all of 50.
Nah.
Go ahead and read all of 50.
To the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die.
So they would kill us for keeping our commandments. Go to verse 57.
57. And wheresoever was found with any the book of the testament, or of any consent to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death.
So they wanted to put us to death for keeping our laws, also having one of our Bibles, which we have before us today. All praise. Huh? Yeah, we couldn't even read it. They would have one of their interpreters. That's why a lot of our people were taught the health, wealth, and prosperity, and to love thy enemy as thyself, and to obey thy master. Which, when you go to that scripture, it's talking about obey your servant. It wasn't talking about somebody that was beating you upside the head of another nation. We're supposed to get with them, but because of our disobedience to the Most High, we were subject to that curse. But go ahead.
58.
Yes.
Thus did they, by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities.
Don't they do that today? By the hand of the police, every month. Sometimes every 2 weeks, an Israelite is being killed. But go ahead.
Verse 59. Now, the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God.
So They profaned our sanctuary. Go ahead.
At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be
So
circumcised.
they put our children to death again. Go ahead.
And they hanged the infants about their necks and and rifled
So this
their
time this
houses.
time they hung the infants that were circumcised, and they went in and rifled out, took everything into the house. The Edomites were the first looters and the thieves of the black man, right? I think it's funny, but it's right here in the scriptures. It happened. Go ahead.
And slew them that had circumcised them.
And
How
they killed the women that circumcised the children. Go ahead.
Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
So they wasn't gonna eat it anyway. They was like, forget that. We're gonna keep the commandments. Go ahead, verse 63. Let's see how brave our people was.
Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant.
So they didn't want to profane the Most High God's covenant. They was like, shoot, I'd rather die. I'm not gonna be defiled with meats. I'm gonna circumcise my children, and I'm gonna keep the Most High God's law, statutes, and commandments. If it kill me, and it killed them. But you see how evil the heathen are? They don't want us to get circumcised. They don't want us to keep our law, statutes, and commandments. But who was this law given to? Us, right? Israel. Nobody else. So with that, let's go to I already read 2nd Maccabees 6 and 10, because that was another one of their generals. That was I'll tell you right now. It was Ptolemy had us killed also for had our women killed. The first one was Antiochus. The second one was Ptolemy. So now let's go to Judas 14 and 10. Let's see what happened.
Judas.
Yep.
Judas what?
Judas 14 and verse 10.
Judas chapter 14 and verse 10. And when Achior had seen all that the God of Israel had done, he believed in God greatly and circumcised the flesh of his foreskin and was joined unto the house of Israel unto this day.
So this guy was from the tribe of Ephraim. He was not circumcised, but he seen the righteous and brave act that Judah did, and he got circumcised once he heard about everything that was going on. Because were the northern kingdom circumcising? Were they being circumcised? No, they weren't. But he heard what happened. So now let's go to chapter 6 and verse 2. I'm going to show you that he was from the tribe of Ephraim.
Judah chapter 6 and verse 2. And who art thou, Achior, and the hirelings of Ephraim, that thou hast prophesied among us as today, and hast said that we should not make war with the people of Israel, because
he was saying don't make war with the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Because their God will defend them, and who is God but Nebuchadnezzar?
Nebuchadnezzar. It's Nebuchadnezzar. But this is one of Nebuchadnezzar's generals that Judah had put to death. And when Achior heard all the things that the Most High God had did through the hands of Judah, he was like, man, I got to get circumcised. I got to come back onto the side of righteousness. Because if it wasn't about the physical circumcision, what needed him to be circumcised? Right? So let's go back to that right quick. Go back to Judith 14 and 10 right quick. Because that was Holofernes, who Judah had put to death.
Judah chapter 14 and verse 10. And when Achior had seen all that the God of Israel had done, he believed in God greatly, and circumcised the flesh of his foreskin, and was joined unto the house of Israel unto this day.
So the house of Israel, he came back. Remember the said Ephraim shall not vex Judah. So he came back into the fold of the Most High in righteousness. He was like, man, forget this. I'm gonna get circumcised. I see the power of the Most High God. I'm not gonna follow in these idols that my forefathers had us doing. I'm gonna go back and serve the Most High God and keep His covenant that was given to our forefather Abraham. But y'all should read that whole story because it's powerful. It's powerful. It showed how this woman, huh? Yeah, yep. So now let's go back to First Maccabees chapter 2. We're gonna read 21 through 27.
21 through 27.
Yeah, First Maccabees chapter 2, 21 through 27. So is it about the physical circumcision? Yeah, we have to be physically circumcised. Even to keep the Passover, we have to be physically circumcised until this day. We are the children of Israel. We have to be circumcised under the covenant of Abraham. For we are the seed of his children.
First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 21. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances.
So the Most High forbid that we forsake his law and the ordinance. Isn't circumcision an ordinance of the law? Go ahead. What'd you say? Yeah.
We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left.
So you know how they say we don't do religion? Religion is something that you practice. So this is our religion, the keeping of the law, statutes, and commandments. Because y'all religiously brush your teeth every day, right? Y'all religiously take a shower every day, right? So we, being the children of Israel, we religiously keep the law, statutes, and commandments and practice them. Go ahead.
Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Which thing then Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
So he slew a wicked Israelite up on the altar. Go ahead. That was all.
Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phinehas did unto Zambri the son of Salom.
Why I went here? To show you that men of zeal kept the Most High God's commandments at all costs, even protecting their brothers, even protecting the temple and tearing it down because it was defiled. Read verse 27.
And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, Whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me.
Which covenant are we supposed to maintain? Huh? The covenant that was given to Abraham. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We supposed to maintain that, just as our forefathers did here. These were the Maccabees. Go ahead. Yeah.
So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them.
Go ahead.
Now when it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into the secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day.
So they made war against our forefathers on the Sabbath day, and they killed them because they didn't fight back. They didn't have the full understanding, but we're going to get and show you what Mattathias, the Maccabees, did. Go ahead.
And they said unto them, Let that which ye have done hereto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. But they said, We will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandments to profane the Sabbath day.
So they were brave. They was like, man, no matter what you say or do, no matter how much power and force you show us, we not gonna profane our commandments, and we not gonna profane the Sabbath. We gonna keep the commandments of the Most High God. Go ahead.
So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they had lay hid.
Ain't that some cold stuff? Our forefathers, men, women, and children, unarmed, they gave them the battle with all speed. Straight killed them. No remorse. Who that happened to here in America? No, but it happened to us, but who it happened to? What celebration is made because of that? Thanksgiving, right? They slew the men, women, and children of the Native Americans, right? And called it Thanksgiving. Yeah. Yeah, Thanksgiving. Thanks for nothing. But it happened to Israel. This is the curse. Go ahead.
So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, Let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth shall testify for us that ye put us to death wrongfully.
So they put our forefathers to death wrongfully because they want us to be under their rule, which the Most High God wants us to keep His law, right? Because we're supposed to keep the law of the land, right? Which is the law of the Most High, not what man set up, but what the Most High set up. Go ahead.
So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people.
So when you read Isaiah 14:21, know that that's going to happen to your enemies as well. Y'all going to get that get back. Go ahead. Go ahead. Keep going.
Now when Mattathias and his friends understood thereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, If we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth.
So our forefathers got to thinking real quick, like, man, that's not going to happen again. Go ahead.
At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, Whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places.
So do we fight on the Sabbath? Yep, we fight on the Sabbath. Go ahead.
Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law.
So you had some more mighty men in Israel. They heard the band that our forefathers had got, and they was like, shoot, we're going to join with y'all. We're going to fight. Go ahead.
Also, all they that fled from persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath.
So they put the polluted men away. They killed them, right? These were men of Israel that they were killing. Wicked men of Israel. Go ahead.
But the rest fled to the heathen for succor.
So here you have our people today. They be going to the heathen. Right? To this very day, they do the same thing. The Bible says ain't nothing new under the sun. But go ahead.
Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly.
So they circumcised the uncircumcised children of Israel. They kept the covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They was like, man, we got to circumcise our people. And they did that. Because they didn't want us to keep the covenant. They didn't want us to circumcise our children, right? But they went ahead and did it. So now let's go to 1 Maccabees 3:21. Because this covenant is still in effect. They tell you, oh, it ain't about circumcision no more. So why would they do this during the time of war? Go and circumcise the uncircumcised children of Israel. Because it's about the covenant that the Most High made with us. Go ahead.
3:21.
Yep. 3:21.
1 Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 21. but we fight for our laws, for our lives and our laws.
So we got to fight for our lives and our laws. The men, women, and children still got to be. The men and the boys, the children, still have to be circumcised to this very day. So with that, let's go to Esther 14 and verse 15. This in the Apocrypha. Because this was something that we would call the heathen. You know how they had proverbs and bywords against us? We had them too. You got it?
Esther chapter 14 and verse 15. Thou knowest all things, O Lord. Thou knowest that I hate the glory of the unrighteous, and abhor the bed of the uncircumcised, and of all the heathen.
So our people, they didn't like being around the heathens. They called them uncircumcised, right? Oh, these all doggone uncircumcised Philistines. That was a proverb and a byword against them, right? Because our people knew the law of circumcision. So with that, let's get another one. Let's go to 1 Samuel 17. We're going to read 26 and go down to verse 36. Because it was all about the law of circumcision. You got that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
1 Samuel chapter 17 and verse 26. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God?
So he was cracking on him. Like, man, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Somebody that don't keep the law of my God. Like, who is he? He ain't nobody. So that was a proverb and a byword against the heathen. Like, who is this? Like, right now, who is this uncircumcised Edomite coming over here talking to me? What right do he have, right? I'm the children of the covenant, the children of the promise. Deuteronomy 7 and 6. I'm the one to be above all nations of people, right? So this was our proverb against them. Let's go to verse 36.
Verse 36. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he have defied the armies of the living God.
So he shall be as one of them. So our forefathers knew about the covenant of circumcision, and we also used it as a proverb and a byword against the heathen. So let's go to Jeremiah 9. We won't read 22 through 26.
Jeremiah 9.
Yep, Jeremiah 9 and 22.
22 through 26.
So is it clear that the children of Israel today still have to be circumcised?
Jeremiah chapter 9 and verse 22. Speak, thus saith the Lord, even the carcasses of men shall fall as dung upon the open field, and as the handful after the harvestmen, and none shall gather them. Thus saith the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, neither let the mighty man glory in his might, let not the rich man glory in his riches, but let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understand and knoweth me, that I am the Lord, which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth, for in these things I delight, saith the Lord. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will punish all them which are circumcised with the uncircumcised.
So, wow, that's real heavy, right? Didn't the children of Israel, and aren't we still being punished by the uncircumcised Philistines, the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Hivites, Esau, right? We still being unpunished by the uncircumcised. and we are the circumcised, right? Go ahead, read verse 26.
Egypt and Judah and Edom and the children of Ammon and Moab and all that are in the uttermost corners that dwell in the wilderness. For all these nations are uncircumcised, and all the house of Israel are uncircumcised in the heart.
So we were circumcised physically, but we became uncircumcised in heart. So the Most High was like, y'all don't want to keep my commandments? I'm going to punish you with the uncircumcised. They was uncircumcised physically and mentally. But we use that against as a proverb against the other nations, right? This uncircumcised Philistine. And is it ironic that the Most High will use everything that we say against them, against us? Like, man, the Most High like saying, who is you? You made a covenant with me and you broke it. Because what did he do in Egypt, right? Everything that the Egyptians worshipped, the Most High used that to destroy them and plague them, right? They worshipped the fly, they worshipped the dung beetle, they worshipped the sun. They were plagued by all these things. So here you go. The Most High is like, man, slap in the face, right? Because we didn't like being killed by the uncircumcised. Let's go to verse 4 and 4. Jeremiah 4 and 4 will show you something else. So the covenant was about the circumcision of the heart and the circumcision physically, right?
Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 4. Circumcise yourselves to the Lord and take away the foreskins of your heart.
So it's synonymous. He says, circumcise yourselves to the Lord and take away the foreskins of your heart. Don't be stiff-necked and hard-hearted, because you already took the foreskin away from your male parts, but now take it away from your head. Stop being dumb. Listen to me, because if not, I'm going to punish you, which he did. He used the uncircumcised to punish us, which that was something that we hated, right? So let's go to Genesis 34. We're going to read 1 through 14.
Genesis chapter 34 and verse 1. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and laid with her and defiled her. And
so we know that we were not to make marriages with the other nations. But I came here to show that if the other nations want to be around us, they also have to be circumcised as well. Which this was one of the tricks that our forefathers used to also murder their enemy. Because what was the punishment of rape? Death, right? And that's what they did. Go ahead.
And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come.
So now let me show you that we were not supposed to marry the Hivites. Let's go to Deuteronomy 7. Hold that. Let's go to Deuteronomy 7. You can start at verse 1. Deuteronomy 7 and 1.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and
So the Hivites, also of the African, the Hamitic nations. Go ahead.
and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them.
So I brought y'all here to show that we were to smite them. And this is what our forefathers did when they encountered the enemy. Go ahead. So now let's go back to Genesis 34. Oh, no. Go ahead. Finish that, and then we'll go back.
Verse 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly.
So we weren't supposed to make marriages with them, but we were commanded to smite them. So now let's go back to Genesis 34. As you can see, Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite.
Start at verse
5. Yeah, you can go back down 5.
You know what, 4. Verse 4?
Yeah, go ahead at verse 4.
Verse 4. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come.
So as you can see, we went in Deuteronomy 7, verse 1 through 3. We're not supposed to marry our enemies, right? We're supposed to do what to them? Smite them, right? And don't make no covenant, no leagues, or nothing with them. But go ahead, let's read on through.
And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they had heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter.
So they remembered the covenant that the Most High made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Like, man, they wrought folly in Israel by doing this to our sister. That's like today, an Edomite come take one of our sisters and, just lay with her. Man, not so. Go ahead.
Which thing ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give her him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein.
So after he done already went out, took our foremother, laid with her, defiled her, because he was lusting after her, now he want to come talk. Man, you done already committed the unforgivable sin, brother. Ain't no peace treaty in this. Go ahead.
And Shechem said unto his father and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his wife deceitfully, and said, Because he hath defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto them, We cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised. Then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people.
Didn't we read that in the law, that if the other nations wanted to be with on us, there had to be one law. They also had to be circumcised, and they was willing to circumcise their whole community because of the act that they did. This one man, he wanted our foremother. But go ahead. Let's see what happened.
But if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father.
How was he honorable when he broke our covenant and lied with our foremother? He tried to make it right. That's like me saying, "I shoot you first, and then I'm gonna come tell you sorry." Am I honorable in that? No, because you didn't follow our customs. You already disrespected us. And this is what the brothers knew. It was in their heart, like, man, go ahead.
And Hamor and Shechem his son came unto the gate of their city, and communed with the men of their city, saying, These men are peaceable with us. Therefore let them dwell in the land, and trade therein. For the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised.
So now let's go. So they all got circumcised. Go ahead. Now let's go down to let's go down. Let's go to verse 25.
25.
Yeah, go down to verse 25.
Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearken all that went out of the gate of his city, and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of his city. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and slew all the males.
So were they justified in this? The sons weren't justified in killing them? Let's go back to Deuteronomy 7 right quick. Is a question on Facebook? Any questions? Anybody got questions? All right, let's get the justification. Let's go to Deuteronomy 7.
7:1.
Yeah. Let's get the justification in them slaying them. Because we know Jacob, he got mad at him for doing it, but they was justified in doing it, because this is what the Most High said.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and has cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Girgashites and
which they were the hit. Oh, go ahead. No, my bad. I jumped.
And the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou.
Which they were the Hivites. Go ahead.
And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them, and thou shalt make no covenant with them. Nor
Didn't they do this? They smite them and destroyed them, and didn't make. They're like, man, you went against our covenant. You went against our law. So they were justified in doing this. But they also remembered the law, where they were saying, man, if y'all want to be around us, y'all have to get circumcised. Let there be one law between us and the heathen. But they also used it in trickery as well. But yeah, they were justified in doing so. What'd you say? They paid for it. So now let's get into the circumcision. Let's get into the circumcision in the New Testament, because a lot of people be confused about what the circumcision is. Let's go to Romans chapter 2. Because they think Paul said that we don't have to be circumcised, right? It's no longer, we don't have to do that in the New Testament. But when you go to Matthew 5, let's go to Matthew 5:17 first. Let's see what Christ said. Go to Matthew 5 and 17.
Matthew chapter 5 and verse 17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets.
So Yahushua did not come to destroy the law. It was still intact because everything that the prophets spoke of was still intact. We're going to show you what Yahushua did away with. Go ahead.
I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
So if you don't destroy something and you fulfill it, what is that? You're leaving it intact, right? That's like saying you build you a car, like a lot of people, they like classic cars, right? You get you an old car, you build it up, and it's like missing this little one piece, this one final touch. And you put it on there, now the car is completely fulfilled. The Most High, well, Yahushua, he put this final touch on the law, and now it's fulfilled. He never destroyed it. Go ahead.
For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled.
So everybody's still dotting their I's and crossing their T's, right? So everything is still intact. Go ahead.
Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
So wasn't circumcision a covenant between us and the Most High? Also, if you didn't get circumcised, you can't keep the Passover, right? You can't even go into the temple. Where is that scripture? Let's get that right quick. First, let's get the circumcision of Christ. Let's go to Luke 2 and 21, and I'll get that scripture for you.
Luke chapter 2 and verse 21. And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcising of the child, his name was called Yahushua, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb.
Go ahead.
And when the days of her purification according to the law of Moses were accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. As it is written in the law of the Lord, every male that openeth the womb shall be called holy to the Lord.
So you see, Yahushua, Christ was circumcised on the 8th day. What was the need of him getting circumcised if the law was done away with? Right? But he got circumcised. So let me get this scripture. Let's go to Exodus 12 and 48. Because y'all know the Passover coming up, right? And all the male men were commanded to be circumcised.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 48. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
So all the males had to be circumcised. Let's go to verse 43.
Verse 43, and the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof.
Go ahead, verse 44.
But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. A foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof.
So all the males of Israel and of the other nations must be circumcised to keep the Passover. Read verse 48 one more time.
Verse 48. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all the males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
So all the men are to be circumcised. If you don't get the circumcision, you're not coming to the Passover. And that's the order from the Most High. So you have to be and you must be circumcised. So now let's go to the New Testament. Let's go to the New Testament. Because a lot of people get Paul's words misconstrued. Let's go to Romans chapter 2, and we're going to read verse 12. Now we just have a little bit of reading and explaining to do. Because it's this simple, people, right here. You don't have to really go nowhere else, but go right here to Romans chapter 2. And you will see exactly what Paul was talking about. Go ahead, let's go.
Romans chapter 2 and verse 12. For as many as have sinned without law shall also perish without law. And as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law.
So if you don't know the law, you're going to be judged by it. If you sin in the law, you also going to be judged by the law. Go ahead.
For not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified.
Only the doers of the law will be justified, not the hearers, but the doers. So we are supposed to continue in the covenant of the Most High. Go ahead.
For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law, these having not the law are a law unto themselves.
So how can you be a Gentile and be keeping the law? Not knowing the law, right? But it's things that people do today. Like some people say, I don't eat pork. It's just in them not to eat pork. It's just in them to correct and beat their children when they get out of line, right? These are laws and statutes and commandments that the Most High set up that we are to keep, right? People today in America, some people, they still get their kids circumcised, not knowing why, but they do it, right? But go ahead.
Which show the work of the law written in their hearts.
So it's written in their hearts. Go ahead.
Their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts the meanwhile accusing or else excusing one another.
Go ahead.
In the day when God shall judge the secrets of men by Hamashiach Yahushua according to my gospel.
Go ahead.
Behold, thou art called a Jew, and resteth in the law, and makest thy boast of God, and knowest his will, and approvest the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the law, and art confident that thou thyself art a guide of the blind.
So somebody that's keeping the law, they become a guide to the blind, right? Then it said in Matthew, if the blind lead the blind, they both shall fall into a ditch. But us knowing the law, we become a guide in this law. Go ahead.
A light of them which are in darkness, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of babes, which has the form of knowledge and of the truth in the law. Thou therefore which teachest another, teachest thou not thyself? Thou that preachest a man should not steal, dost thou steal? Thou that sayest a man should not commit adultery, dost thou commit adultery? Thou that abhorrest idols, dost thou commit sacrilege?
That thou makest thy boast.
Thou that makest thy boast of the law, through breaking the law, dishonorest thou God. For the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written.
So when you say you're a keeper of the law, but you don't keep the law, you blaspheme the name of the Most High by doing that. So now let's see.
For circumcision verily profited, if thou keep the law.
So your circumcision will profit you if you keep the law, which is given to who? Abraham and his seed. Because without you being circumcised, you break the covenant that the Most High made with you. There was a token, right? to the Most High. Go ahead.
For circumcision verily profiteth if thou keep the law. But if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision.
How is the only way it's going to be made uncircumcision because you become a sinner and you break the law. Amos 9 and 10 says, all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword. This is why Paul gave this analogy of the circumcision. He's telling you, like, you can be circumcised, you can be an Israelite, but the minute you break these commandments, your circumcision becomes uncircumcision. So go ahead.
Therefore, if the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not his uncircumcision be counted for circumcision?
Should it? Are they still going to receive the things of the promise without physically being circumcised? Because they keeping the law, right? But they not wholly keeping the law. Because they left out a part of circumcision that was given to the children of Israel. So let's get that. No. Go ahead.
And shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge thee, who by the letter and circumcision does transgress the law? For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God.
So you have to be physically circumcised and keep the law to fully be circumcised in your mind and in your heart. Right? So it's that simple. But people, they get Paul's words misconstrued and all twisted up, saying, oh man, Paul said we don't have to be circumcised. But in all actuality, to keep the law of to keep the law of Abraham, to keep the covenant of Israel with the Most High, you have to be circumcised physically and in your mind. Let's get that Deuteronomy. I believe it's 10. Deuteronomy 10 and 16. Because there's not only one circumcision, it's the circumcision of the mind, the renewing of your mind. Deuteronomy 10 and 16.
Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 16. Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked.
So he says, circumcise the foreskin in your heart, and don't be stiff-necked. Listen to what I tell you to do. Keep my covenant. Do all that I tell you to do, so you don't get cut off. Let's go to Genesis 17 verse 14. We're gonna come back. We're gonna come back to that Romans.
Genesis 17 and 14.
Yep.
Genesis chapter 17 and verse 14. And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant.
So you break the Most High God's covenant, you're going to be cut off. It's that simple. That's how your circumcision will be of no circumcision. It will be nothing to you if you don't fully get circumcised in the flesh and in the mind. So let's get that. Let's go to Ephesians 2:11. Ephesians 2:11. Because we are called to the circumcision of the flesh and of the mind.
Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 11. Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh.
So we were called Gentiles in the flesh. Go ahead.
Who are called uncircumcision.
Uncircumcision because we didn't keep the commandments and we didn't get circumcised. Go ahead.
By that which is called the circumcision, in the flesh made by hands, that at that time ye were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenant of promise, having no hope and without God in the world.
So they gave us three names right there. They call us Gentiles, strangers, and what else? Uncircumcised, right? So with that, let's go back to Romans because we're about to run out of time. Let's hurry up and get through this. Let's go to Romans chapter 3. We're going to start at verse 1.
Romans chapter 3 and verse 1. What advantage then hath the Jew, or what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God.
So who was given the oracles of the Most High? Let's go. Hold that because we do have an advantage. Let me get my precepts. These were given the oracles of God. Let's go to chapter 26, 1 through 5. Genesis 26, 1 through 5. But you can hold that Romans.
Genesis chapter 26, verse 1. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall take thee of, which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father.
So, that's one of the seeds that were given the promise. Go ahead. Now let's go to 35 and 10. So Isaac was given the seed of the promise. Because you know he had a son named Ishmael, right? But he didn't get this promise. Go ahead. 35 and 10.
35 and 10. Genesis 35 and 10. And God said unto him, Thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. Keep on.
So we are the children of Israel. We are the children of the promise that the seed was given to. This is our advantage. Because when you go to Genesis now, go back to Genesis 17. Because Abraham had another son. That's Genesis 17, verse 18.
Genesis chapter 17 and verse 18. And Abraham said unto God, O that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him.
So the covenant was with Isaac, not Ishmael, which Isaac had Jacob. It was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? That's who the covenant was given to, not the other nations. So now let's go back to Romans. How much time we got? Got a little bit of time. Romans chapter 3.
Romans chapter 3 and what?
All right, my time is up. So let's go to Romans chapter. Go back to that verse 2.
Verse 2?
Yeah.
Romans chapter 3 and verse 2. Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God. For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of God without effect? God forbid. Yea, let God be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings, and mightest overcome when thou art judged.
Go ahead.
But if our unrighteousness commend the righteousness of God, what shall we say? Is God unrighteous who taketh vengeance? I speak as a man. God forbid. For then how shall God judge the world? For if the truth of God have more abounded uh, through my lie unto his glory, why yet am I also judged as a sinner?
So now let's go to verse 30. So I want to get over the circumcision.
Verse 30. Seeing it is one God, which shall justify the circumcision by faith and uncircumcision through faith.
So let's get the precept right quick. How he justified that. Go to Acts. Go to Acts 7 and 8. Because when Abraham was justified through faith, he was not circumcised yet. So read that.
Acts chapter 7 and verse 8. And he gave him the covenant of circumcision. And so Abraham begat Isaac and circumcised him the 8th day. And Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat the 12 patriarchs.
So the covenant of circumcision was passed down through all the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. And we are to still to this very day, as men of Israel, get circumcised. So let's see how much faith Abraham had, because he even circumcised his other son Ishmael, who was not supposed to be, who did not receive the covenant of Israel. So let's go to this is the last one. Let's go to Genesis 17 right quick. 17 and 24.
Genesis 17 and 24. And Abraham was 90 years old and 9 when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin.
So he also circumcised Ishmael because he was of his household. Go ahead.
In the self same day was Abraham circumcised and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house born in the house and brought with money of the stranger were circumcised with him.
So everybody was circumcised through the covenant, through the law, statutes, and commandments that the Most High put on Abraham. And I hope I can get a part two that I can finish out. But you can go ahead and read the whole chapter, Romans 4.
17, 24 through 27.
Yeah, no matter how old you are. Yeah, when he was talking to Judah, Judah was a grown man of the tribe of Ephraim. He got circumcised when he heard about the good acts. But you can go back and read that and see what she did, and she defeated. Yeah, Judah was a bad sister, man, and so he came and was like, man, I got to get circumcised. I want to continue in the promise of my forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And also, if you have any other questions, you can go to our www.truenation.org. Go to the website, email us. The phone number's on there. Also, you can go to True Nation 12 on YouTube, and also you can get a True Nation Israelite Congregation on Facebook if you have any questions concerning circumcision. And with that, I say shalom.